warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I bear witness there is no God and nothing worthy of worship besides Allah. And that Muhammad is the servant and final messenger of Allah. Before I start, Shida, you can totally come over here if you'd like to not be by yourself.
Oh, I already, you know me. I already see you.
Okay. I just feel comfortable. Any questions?
I am.
Okay. I seek refuge in Allah from misleading and being misled, from betraying and being betrayed into ignorance by others. I ask Allah to guide my heart and to guide my tongue. I declare belief in Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. All praise is due to Allah, who has created man and has not left him without guidance. We ask that Allah confer upon us a knowledge that is useful, a heart that is enlightened, a tongue which is truthful, an intellect that is unerring, a confidence that is pleasing to Allah. May Allah confer upon us success in this life and in the hereafter. Amen. So my name is Maha Al-Kalali. I'm a professor here at NSU Law, and I am South Florida Muslim Federation's Outreach Committee Coordinator. I'll be the moderator this afternoon. So thank you for joining us and for attending this session on what is Sharia law. And this is basically, we want this to be a safe space for everyone. Any questions or conversations that anybody wants to have, this is the space to ask those questions, those hard questions. We want you to come forward with any questions you have pertaining to Sharia law or anything that's unclear about it. So there is no, and I'll say this in my classes, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you need to ask it, please ask it so we can clarify anything that is unclear. So just a little background on the South Florida Muslim Federation. It's an umbrella organization of about 36 Muslim entities here in the South Florida area, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. And this event is brought to you by the South Florida Muslim Federation in conjunction with Shepard Law School and Iman, NSU Iman, which is International Muslim Association at Nova. So we want to thank you all for facilitating this and for assisting us in coordinating this event. So in talking about Sharia law, and I'm trying to go through this fast so we can get to our amazing speaker. It's an unfortunate reality that words with positive meanings are sometimes strategically and repeatedly connected with negative events or events that cause fear, such that the word ultimately takes a negative meaning or a negative connotation in the minds of the masses. And what we need to do is open this dialogue, and even if these conversations are difficult to have these difficult conversations to clarify any misunderstandings or misinterpretations of what exactly these words mean. So the purpose of this event is to convey authentic information and demystify the concept of Sharia law, which is grossly misunderstood by many Americans. In fact, many Americans even fear this idea or this word Sharia law. So just to kind of give a brief intro, Sharia refers to the Islamic law based upon Quran and traditions of Prophet Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. And people often will say in our communities that Islam is incompatible with United States values. What they fail to realize is the role that Islam has played in American history and the development of this nation. So just to kind of give you a few bullet points of just how critical Islam was and Sharia was in the creation of our system, Islam is honored in several monuments that are the foundation of this country. For example, the U.S. Supreme Court honors Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as one of the greatest lawgivers in history. In fact, he's engraved in the Supreme Court building itself. Directly above the courtroom bench, the north wall shows 18 of the greatest leaders in history who played a role in establishing laws. One of those 18 great people who is honored in the U.S. Supreme Court is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. If you go to the United States Library of Congress, there's a mural of what they call the mural of human understanding. And surrounding the mural, and I've seen this, and it's interesting is when I took my children there, I was a bit shocked to see it myself. I did not know that it was there. There's a mural of human understanding, and surrounding the mural are 12 winged figures representing epics which were thought to have contributed to the evolution of Western civilization. Islam is portrayed as a figure next to the banner reading physics. And it represents the contribution of Islamic physics, or physical sciences, to this nation's foundation. The third place, the Library of Thomas Jefferson. And I'm sure now everybody has heard of Thomas Jefferson's Qur'ans. It's a 2-volume copy of the Qur'an, which he purchased in 1765 when he was studying to become a lawyer. It only came to public awareness in 2007 when Representative Keith Ellison used the Qur'an to be sworn into office as the first Muslim to be elected in U.S. Congress. Harvard University Law School recognizes the Qur'an as one of the leading books for justice in the world. The entrance of the faculty library has words of justice exhibited wherein there are 33 quotations representing history's greatest expressions of justice. Prominent at the entrance is a wall, and on that wall there are 3 quotations. One is from St. Augustine, the second is the Magna Carta, or is a quote from the Magna Carta, and the third one is a quote from the Quran, chapter 4, verse 135, which states, "O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even as against yourselves, your parents, or your kin, and whether it be against rich or poor, for Allah can best protect both." These passages that are chosen on this wall are chosen by Harvard faculty and students for their quote-unquote testimony to the endurance of humanity yearning for fairness and dignity through law. And as you go into this subject, there are several articles that are really worth looking into. North Carolina Law Review article, volume 77, number 5, has an article called The Islamic Origins of Common Law by John McDeasy. He details several things in our common law that originates ultimately from Islamic law. But the one that stands out most is a very core concept of the law, which is the 12-person unanimous jury, which ultimately, if you look back at it historically, and he gives you a detailed account, it originated with Islamic law. So very few of us know this in the practice of law, and the more we discover how much Islamic history has impacted our nation, has impacted common law, was respected by the founding fathers of this nation, the more we understand our history and the importance of knowing our history so that we can tell others about it. So the last point that I want to make as far as this nation and the foundation of this nation is that the Kingdom of Morocco, which is a Muslim nation, was in fact the first nation to recognize America after the signing of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. In fact, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is the longest unbroken relationship in U.S. history. This connection to the Muslim world and to Shariah Law, this unspoken, feared word, is absolutely critical in us understanding what America is and foundation of many parts of our common law. So having said that, I want to introduce our amazing speaker, Imam Azhar Subedar. He's a motivational orator, an advocate and teacher. He has a master's degree from the Institute of Islamic Education at Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, England. For 13 years, Imam Azhar served as an imam in Florida and was a spiritual director at the University of Tampa. He is a counselor, interfaith speaker, a certified Qadi, which is a Quranic reciter. Imam Subedar currently serves as the imam, which is a spiritual leader at, is it Plano Masjid? in Texas. He was the first imam to give the opening prayer at the Florida State Legislature in 2016 and is currently writing a book about Sharia law. He also regularly visits South Florida to hold lectures and community meetings. He does a virtual weekly live session for South Florida Muslim Federation, which can be viewed on the Instagram page at SoFlo Muslims. So without further ado, Imam Azhar, thank you for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Alhamdulillah. Okay, this light's in the way. I'll just kind of stand on the side. Is that okay? Perfect. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. We have to crunch a lot in the next hour and so I want to be as short and concise as possible. My hope here today is that all of us understand the dire need to comprehend this topic in its true essence and form, and inshallah from there become instrumental in changing the narrative of Islam. I walked a little, so I hope that's the direction. Okay, so the problem here is, I want you to picture, this is Sharia law right here. This podium is Sharia law. And Muslims who are true to their faith have abandoned it. And so it's now a tug of war between two sides. Does anyone know what the two sides are? Two sides, tug of war. Let me give you a hint. One side consists of 0.006 of 1% of the Muslim population.
Is it Shia?
Not there, but you said something, so that's great. Thank you so much. 0.006 of 1% of the Muslim population falls under this category that they have self-appointed for themselves.
Extremist.
Thank you.
Oh.
Islamic extremists, the Taliban, ISIS, and the whole lot. So we have here the Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, they're pulling Sharia. Okay? Who's on the other side? No, Muslims have abandoned it. We have abandoned Sharia because it's too hot of a topic to hold. If it was a topic that was worthwhile addressing, we wouldn't be in a position where we are globally today. And I'll take the blame first for that. Who's on the other side? Hint. A $300 million industry here in America.
Islamophobia.
Media?
They have much more money. Believe me. Islamophobia. Islamophobia is an industry in America. Islamophobia and Islamic extremists. We've got two opposite extremes fighting for the one thing. So long Muslims leave Sharia to be on its own, Islamophobia is changing the narrative of Muslims in America. With all respect to what Sister Maha said, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant now. Because a shift is occurring as we sit in our homes or we study in our classrooms that is taking Islam away from beneath our feet here in this country. And it's happening also in Muslim countries, it's happening everywhere. And the key reason behind it is because it seems to me at times that the Islamophobes and Islamic extremists are working together because they benefit each other. They literally benefit each other. So today, I'm not here to spend time to talk about ISIS and their origins. I'm not here to talk about Mullah Omar and the Taliban. I'm not here to talk about Russia and the war with Afghanistan. I'm not here to talk about Al-Qaeda. I'm not here to talk about Osama bin Laden. And if you have any questions, as Sister Maya said, no question is a bad question. Say it, I'll be happy. I don't care if you think it's offensive or you think it's bad, say it, I don't care. The problem is this, Sharia doesn't stand on the back of people who claim it is theirs. Sharia is backed by four things that we will talk about today. Our goal is to focus on the essence and the truth of Sharia. That's it. We cannot continue to play the sorry game. I'm sure you all know what the sorry game is. I'm sorry about that knife attack in Belgium. I'm sorry about that car accident in France. I'm sorry about that. Why are we apologizing? Do we condemn? Oh, yes, we do. Do we have to be apologetic? No, we don't. Because so long we are being apologetic to what others are doing in the name of our faith, we're trying to say, you know what, we're trying to keep it in-house here, all that stuff that we do, this one got out. So we're sorry about that. No, our deen is open, it's transparent, and there is nothing from it which cannot be explained in the context of the Quran and Hadith, so long we understand the premise and the foundation of that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, inshallah. In intern, inshallah, if you have any questions in regards to the many topics we'll talk about, please do raise your hand and ask. If not, then inshallah, sorry, actually write them down and we'll ask them after Sister Maha's going to be moderating, inshallah. So here before us, did I do that? Did you do that?
I did it.
Okay, thank you. My watch is working out for this. Okay, so Islam was hijacked way before 9/11. Islam as a religion was hijacked way before 9/11. After 9/11, Muslims in America realized the importance of representing their faith. But the way we went about representing our faith was service, good deeds, good actions, feeding, interfaith, but we haven't made a dent. We haven't even made a dent in confronting the narrative that's been built against us. Why? Because Islam was hijacked way before 9/11. Despite all that we've done as communities, I don't know if you read the report came out a few weeks ago. In 2020, and forgive me for not getting the number head on, I think it was 4.3 billion. Muslims were more charitable in America than any other denomination. We donated 4.3 billion of our hard-earned dollars in charity in America in the last fiscal year. But we're yet to make a dent. What kind of dent we're talking about? This is one of them. In a recent study, Al Jazeera had this study, 2 in 5 Americans feel Islam is incompatible with US and American values. Now, why do they feel it's incompatible? According to a recent study, we are now 1.9 billion Muslims on the face of this earth. That's 24.7% of the world's population. Why is it that 2 out of 5, almost 50% of Americans feel that our religion, our way of life, our culture, our name, the color of our skin, the way we dress, the way we eat, what we pray, who we pray to is incompatible with US values? Goes to show that, again, we're doing a lot of great work around here, but the work has to be done here. If I'm planting a seed, or if, sorry, let me not say planting seed, if there is a tree or a plant that exists here, and I'm watering this side, and I'm caring for this side, while weeds are growing around the plant itself, I'm actually a cause of its destruction. My focal point should be the plant, because the plant is what I'm supposed to take care of. The stuff that's outside of the plant isn't my business. So as we do all the great work we're doing, as Muslims who are here in attendance, and for the non-Muslims, question is, how many of us actually stop to understand what is Sharia? 20 years after this war, $2 or $3 trillion, Taliban just walked in and said, we're ruling with Sharia again. Do you understand what that means? It means 2 things. It means, number 1, that the Sharia of Islam isn't going to go away. And number 2, the people hijacking it are not going to go away either. Understand this. I'm not saying that the Taliban is governing with true Sharia. The fact that they took that name, the fact that they made that claim, they are saying that the legitimacy of a religion followed by 1.9 billion people is what we're using to govern this country. I.e., it was not Taliban 2.0, it's hijack 2.0. So today we want to go again to the essence. And for those who are not of Islamic faith here, I just want to make a point clear. When religion is presented or discussed, many times it may be that, you know, my religion is better than yours, or come towards my religion. This is none of that stuff here. And the best words I could find that articulate that are the words of a parent who sat with President Trump a little while after he was, he was in office. He gathered a whole bunch of parents and family members who lost children to school shootings and stuff. And one of the fathers of a student who died in the Columbine shootings, he said these words: the focus must not be just on unity or diversity. Because if you focus too much on diversity, you create division. And if you focus too much on unity, you'll create compromise. But if you focus on relatedness and how we could relate with one another, then you can celebrate diversity and you can see the unity take place. I believe these are golden words. It's just amazing. You know, okay, now Americans say Islam is not compatible. What, the whole faith isn't compatible? Yeah. The people aren't compatible? Yeah. So what do we do then? Go home to your countries. Well, this is my country. No, it's not. Do you see where it's going? We talk about the differences, or we talk about the similarities. That shouldn't be our goal. Anytime we talk about Islam as Muslims, you're not supposed to talk about how we're similar to other people, or how there's some differences, but they're fine. No. We are different in many ways, but those differences aren't a threat. And that's the point that we need to fix, not drive. We need to fix it. And we have to drive who we are, and be who we are, and live how we live. Because this is one of the only countries in the world that allows you to do that. Move to the next slide, please. So here, okay, go back one. Just use arrows. Oh, I thought I changed this. Actually, we'll pass the exercise. It's fine. Okay, so nowadays when people hear Sharia law or Sharia law is discussed on our favorite TV shows like Fox, you know, what do they talk about? They talk about honor killings, they talk about public beheadings, they talk about how women are you know, the subjugation of women, how they are, they cannot do and live what they want to do or what they want to live, child marriages, and of course jihad alongside with it, the kafir, the infidel. So kind of, this is what you hear when you hear Sharia. This is kind of what the discussion is around. Yes or no, everybody? Is there anything else that you may hear? According to Islamic Sharia, today is Ramadan. They're going to be fasting and praying. No. A girl was married off in Afghanistan. Actually, it just happened 2 weeks ago. A man purchased a girl, a 55-year-old man purchased a 9-year-old girl, then married her, and he said that was Sharia. When the discussion came up, this is what comes up. So, the perception, and I want to just say this, perception overwrites reality and truth. The truth can be changed by driving the perception. If I create the perception, I remember CNN during 2016, no, 2019 or somewhere during this last presidency, CNN aired a commercial, and they showed a banana and they said apple.
Yes.
Apple. Apple. You drive it long enough, people say that's an apple. So perception could override truth, and that's dangerous. So this perception, see these things, this is what not non-Muslims see, this is what Muslims see in practicing Muslims as non-Muslims see in all Muslims when you talk about, I'm a Muslim and I follow Sharia. How many of us here follow Sharia? Hesitation. How many Muslims here, please? Hands up, everyone. Whoever's Muslim. Okay, great, great, great. How many follow Sharia? Scary answer, right? See, if that gets out on social media and I apply for a job for follow Sharia law. I'm studying here my whole life. I need to do something. So let's make a point clear here. Very clear point, everybody. Every Muslim follows Sharia. Own it. Own it. And there's nothing wrong with it. The verse of the Holy Quran, chapter 42, verse 13, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shariah is making the way, we'll talk about that more. Allah has ordained for you the same religion that He has ordered for Nuh alayhi salam. Why Noah? Because Noah was the first prophet. Adam alayhi salam was the first human. Noah alayhi salam was like the first messenger. So and that which we revealed to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is ilayka Muhammad? Between Nuh and Muhammad, from one end of the spectrum to the opposite end of the spectrum, Sharia is something that's been in existence. And then of course the great prophets, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, the same way of life, the same Sharia has been revealed to all the prophets. And what is that Sharia? Establish your religion and don't cause division. Simple. It's not rocket science. Sharia is very simple. Okay, if you're not a Muslim and you follow a divine religion, you follow Christianity, Judaism, it's your Sharia. You follow something outside the Abrahamic faith, Hinduism, Sikhism, whatever, that's your Sharia. Or you don't follow any faith at all, but you follow certain laws or rules that direct your path in life, that's a Sharia. Every human being is following a Sharia. So as a Muslim, we follow a divine Sharia. The legitimacy of it goes back to like the first 1,000 years, and it continued to, I don't know what year, how many years between then and the Prophet ﷺ, and everything in between. A Sharia, the way of life that's been divinely directed for the creation of Allah. Everyone follows Sharia. So how many of us follow Sharia? Great. Let's go next one. Irrespective if you're Muslim or not, everyone's following a Sharia away. So there's 4 things we want to talk about. Is there internet here? Does that mean some changes in the slides are not reflecting that? Just want to make sure. Sorry, I want something to. Right? Just change this.
Guess. Guess. Network guest.
Sorry,
Oh, do you know the password?
It's no password, but you have to log in, accept. Guest. Just say accept. Click accept. Yep, that's it. Log in. Log in. No, down. Yeah, that one. Yep, you're good.
First part, yeah, bro. You guys do it.
Looks like the university is on vacation. There you go. Okay. Today we're going to talk about 4 things, everyone. We're going to talk about the application of Sharia, introduction of Sharia, implementation of Sharia, and a conclusion. Remember, we started by discussing where Sharia stands today, who's fighting Sharia, and who's gaining from Sharia. Taliban gained a whole country under the name of Sharia. America has changed the narrative of Muslims in this country because of anti-Sharia. We are all, see this rope here? If we call this the rope, the tug of war, all the American Muslims right here. We're being pulled on both sides. It's about time that we snap out of it ourselves and we take Sharia back, inshallah. So we're talking about the reality of how things are, what we profess and believe, and let's get into the context of this. So first, application. Sharia existed in this world as a system of governance. What did it do to the world? You know, we talk about non-Muslims don't exist under Islamic law, women don't have rights. Well, did you know Prophet Muhammad was the first person to give Jews open rights to worship and practice in a city that he was governing? Before that, if it was Persian law, it was Persian. If it was the Romans law, it was Romans. Here, the first interfaith community of respect and connection was built by our Prophet ﷺ in Medina. We have so much to be proud about only if we were able to, number one, understand our history and respectfully understand our religion. At that time, we could break the backbone of both of these. A $300 million industry doesn't need $600 million to break it. It just needs 3 million Muslims of America to tell the world what their religion is. That's all we need. That's all we need. So what did Sharia do when it was applied to the world and it was used as a system of governance? Again, just to clarify, we are not going to talk about people, and because people have flaws. Certain rulers have flaws. We're not here to legitimize a country, a government, or a previous caliph or anyone else. We're here to talk about the religion in its true form and essence. Everyone good with that, inshallah? Because we don't have the time to kind of dissect and go through everyone and their history, because I really don't know their stories also. Let's go to the next one, inshallah. So, the state system of Islamic caliphate Sharia was used by the state system of Islamic caliphate. It existed from 632 to 1922. Yes, 1922, right after the First World War. It has been in function for 1,290 years. Sharia was a system of governance in many countries for 1,290 years. It's been absent for 99 years. Any questions? Make sense? Let's go deeper into this. When Sharia law was presented as a system of life, a system of governing, not the world. This is where we're going wrong. Sharia teaches you how to govern yourself. And if you can govern yourself, and it goes viral that every person, just say all of us here are governing ourselves through the laws, the divine laws of Allah, then we make a society, indirectly you just build a society of people who think the same and work the same. But when people forget what it's all about, then it's very easy to manipulate it, and it's very easy to hijack it. So when Sharia was in existence as under the caliphate, as you can see here, After the Umayyad dynasty, it covered what is known as Saudi Arabia today, parts of Afghanistan, all the way to the northern belt of Africa. It went on to, again, these are the years as it spread. So as far as Sharia spread, you could see its grasp went into Europe, Asia, and Africa. 3 continents had a time, a period where Islam and Sharia was a system of governing the society. Make sense? It wasn't right here in Makkah, Medina, okay? And it wasn't in Bora Bora or anywhere else. It was spread everywhere. Go on to the next slide. So what happened when Sharia law was established? Of course, women had to wear burqas and niqabs. They couldn't marry with their choice. We destroyed every church and synagogue in the world. You know, the first time I went to Jordan, I was 13, 14 years old. There's the first place in Amman, Jordan, where I saw a mosque, a church, and a synagogue side by side. And what that taught me was there was a time when people actually lived together in harmony. You see, you don't have to give up who you are and what you believe so someone else can accept you. You have the right to be who you are, and others should respect you for that. It's as simple as that. As I respect others, they should respect me. It was a mutual understanding. So what happened during the caliphate? You would think mass destruction and murder, and no. In 737, the Zaytuna University was founded in Tunisia. Okay, again, a university that actually educated the masses. In 786 to 809 was a time when Harun Rashid established something known as the House of Wisdom. The House of Wisdom used to be in Baghdad, Iraq. Baghdad was at one time, Basra, Baghdad, these were capitals of knowledge, capitals of finances. Iraq isn't just some war-torn country that many of us know it to be today, especially for those who were born after 9/11. Iraq was a huge mine of goodness. And Harun Rashid established the House of Wisdom. What was happening there? Where people studied their religion, mathematics, and everything else, and it wasn't just Muslims. Jews and Christians attended together, i.e., anyone of the society attended the House of Wisdom. They studied together, they researched together, they grew together, and the society thrived together. There's no such thing as an Islamic caliphate where every single person in every single home will be Muslim. That's not what caliphate's about. Caliphate is taking a responsibility to ensure that goodness happens on this earth and that goodness remains on this earth. Who defines good from bad? Allah does. And my job is to put it into context for people with wisdom. Anyways, 859, this is the most beautiful time when the Qaraeen University was founded by Fatima al-Fahri. A female Muslim lady founded a certificate giving a university that gave certification in 859. And that's in Morocco. And subhanAllah, if you go to Fas, Morocco, you can taste knowledge in the air. It's so amazing. You can't articulate. It's like it has a reminiscence in the air, in the soil, in those buildings of just knowledge and people striving for knowledge. We'll go to the next slide. Dr. Craig, one of his tweets, just amazing. He talks about how 179 years ago, from 2019, Catherine Brewer Benson was the first woman in the United States to earn a bachelor's degree, right? 179 years ago. Progress, yes or no? Yes, progress. But 1,178 years ago, Fatima Fahri, an Arab Muslim woman, founded the first university in world history, and that was also giving degrees. So, progress or no? Progress. You see, again, let's not go into politics, but let's speak it straight. We talk about women's rights, we talk about human rights, we talk about all these things. There's a huge violation going on here. America as a country, and not here to bash America, but as a country, women still don't have the same rights as men do. They don't make equal pay, do they? Do women make equal pay as men? No. At the time of the Prophet Khadija radiallahu anha's money was hers. Right? So we talk about what I call the deflection strategy, where we're going to say, oh, that's a problem, go look at that. The problem's here, but it's called deflection. Oh, look at those Muslims, look what they're doing, oh my God, it's so bad. You know what? Let's help fix what we're supposed to be so that we can help this country, which we call home. It's our home. We can fix its problems also, because we have a lot of problems, and I'll be talking about them very shortly, inshallah. So again, context, perspective. Yes, that happened 179 years ago, but way before that, 1,000 or 999 years before that, this was happening under the caliphate in what was known as the Muslim world. Next slide.
You just published the book.
Yeah, I saw that, yes, alhamdulillah. Now, because of the advancements in education, I'm just talking about one aspect of Sharia. Abbas Firnas, he attempted to fly. Not the Wright brothers, this happened in 887. Abu Qasim Zahrawi, he wrote an encyclopedia on medicine, on surgery. Ibn Sina, very famous for the canon of medicine, and it continues to serve in some aspects till today, Ibn Sina's work. Ibn Haytham Hazan, he wrote a book on optics, and he fathered the scientific method. Again, there's just, if you go to MuslimHeritage.com, you'll get to learn how many things Muslims actually, there were breakthroughs made in the world of technology, science, medicine, and there's, if you go to Dubai, I don't know if it's still there, there's a mall, it's like a pyramid. It has this Egyptian theme, and the beauty of that mall is that every few steps, there's these little things in the middle of the mall. It gives you history of who is Ibn Battuta, when the first optic surgery happened, the first open heart surgery, the two brothers, the people who, Abbas and Firnas trying to fly. It has all these models and these little type of displays which kind of enlighten you and educate you as you shop, which is interesting. We'll go to the next slide. So in addition to education architecture, we go back to Turkey, you go to Persia, you go to Uzbekistan, you'll see beautiful architecture. Is this the work of people who want death and destruction? Or is it the work of people who believe in advancement and progress for the sake of God? Again, so much could be said about this, not just the art itself, the geometry, and everything else, it's just beauty. So this is what we saw happen during the Caliphate. Next slide. Again, just looking at that beauty in Iran, it's just amazing. Alhamdulillah. So, according to a study that was taken last year, 1.9 billion people are Muslims on the face of this earth, which is 24.7% of the world population. Islam is the second largest religion, but it is the fastest growing religion. And I forgot to bring that code that's from the Pew Research. I actually deleted that, but that's fine. So that is the application of Sharia. Let's keep it based and understand that on a large scale, if I do a bird's eye view, that's what Sharia did when it was around in governing places in this world for 1,290 years, which is a long time. What is Sharia? You see, Sharia, as a definition, the literal meaning definition, is to show. Many people nowadays use a definition, a well-trodden path to water. That's not the logui mana, that's not the dictionary meaning of it, but again, it makes sense. It's to show. And Ibn Abbas explains it as a way of life that Allah has shown to His servants, how Allah has taught us to live. It's very simple when you want to explain your religion to people, for those who are Muslims. I'm a Muslim, I follow a religion, Allah's my Lord, and my Lord tells me how to live life. I'm driving the Kia is made by Kia, the Kia has a book in it that tells me how to drive a Kia. Any objections? Why isn't that book from Ford? Why isn't it from Toyota? What are you doing with a Kia book and a Kia stuff? You should have a Toyota book in there or a Mercedes. So no, God, Allah has told me how to live my life. He has shown me, the Prophet Muhammad exemplified that for me. That's basically the way of life. Why is Sharia, what's the objective of Sharia? To reform each person, not country. Each person in society so that they can be a benefit to their communities and not a source of harm. The beauty of Sharia was to ensure that the streets were safe, that the society was safe, and that's only through their safety they can prosper. Could someone tell me quickly, what was the barometer or the measure of Islam at the time of the Prophet? Like, where would you look to see Islam at the time of the Prophet Muhammad? Medina? Where exactly? Location. Not place, not like a landmark, but a place in the landmark. Masjid. How many people say the mosque? Hands. Sorry, everyone's wrong. The place to measure Islam was the market. Because if the market upholds honesty, integrity, and trust, that means the religion that's being taught in the four walls is being lived in society. There's a reason why the Prophet once was in the market and he passed by a heap of grains and he stuck his hand in it and he said, "Oh my God, it's wet. What did you do?" He goes, "Yeah, Prophet, you know, it rained last night. I just couldn't sell the wet grains. I put some dry ones on top." He goes, "That's deception. Whoever deceives is not from us." This teaching is being taught in the marketplaces. What you learn in the mosque has to be upheld in your life. And if the integrity of the market goes down, the whole society is gone. Because what was the heartbeat of Medina or Makkah or Arabia? It was the markets. From Yemen to Syria, it was all about the markets. And if you say that this city has a bunch of con artists, the whole city's gone. The religion didn't go. The people's livelihood would be gone. So Islam was understood by how the markets functioned. And that is why Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he was a Khalifa and he was walking the streets and he paused because a mother and a daughter are fighting and he listens into the conversation. Mother saying, "Mix the water in the milk because the animals didn't give enough milk and we need to make our money." And she said no, Allah said no, and Amir al-Mu'mineen said no, the Caliph said no. She was, "Well, he's not here." And she said, what to her mom? "He's not here, but Allah's here." The next morning, Umar bin Khattab sent his people to the markets to buy all the milk. Why? Because if someone drinks tainted milk, they will lose trust in the market. And if the market is gone, there's no need for Islam. Islam isn't lectures and teachings. Islam is you live it. You uphold it. When they tasted all the milk and they checked it, all the milk was pure. And he found out that she went against her mother because the truth wasn't what her mother was saying. What did he do in return? Does anyone remember? He married his son off to her because she had the integrity and she was honest. So again, a society that is benefit where you are a benefit, not a source of harm. To establish justice for all humans. We could talk a lot about the justice system. We'll see if we get a chance to do that. And to establish well-being for all communities. All communities. And what is our vision through Sharia? An environment of safety, security, and social stability. An atmosphere where everyone can thrive and reach their utmost potential. Because if everyone reaches their potential, we all benefit. And if only some want to reach their potential while suppressing others, everyone will fall. Next slide. So, what is the sources of Sharia? This is, to me, the most beautiful part of Sharia. Sharia is an equal balance. There are two sources which are divine, where we have no say. But then there are two sources that we do have a say. One is, of course, the Quran, the word of Allah, and the Hadith, which is the words and ways of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Everyone's okay with this, right? These are the two divine sources of explaining the religion. But then we have our ability to weigh in on the Quran and Hadith with consensus. Consensus is where, for example, a cell phone, it's not in the Quran, could you have one or not? So scholars discuss the premise and benefit of it, and they come to a consensus that it's okay. I don't know if you read the news recently, Indonesia just banned cryptocurrency because they said it's haram. They came to a consensus. That's a consensus they reached based on whatever they saw for their country. A consensus. Consensus is coming together to bring something which is recent or current into perspective on the foundations of the Quran and Hadith. And the fourth is analogy. So basically, where a person who has rooted understanding of this, but doesn't have the ability to have a consensus with people because of his or her circumstance, can use their opinion for something which is urgent and needed, nothing to change their religion. Next slide. So now, interesting here. This is Dr. Jihad. Joe Bradford has done amazing work on this. And alhamdulillah, there are 6,000 more or less verses in the Quran. And everyone says your whole thing, when they talk about Sharia, they don't say Sharia, they say Shariah Law. Sharia Law, Sharia Law. It's always that one thing. How much of Sharia is Sharia Law? And that's where you have to go to the Quran because that's the source. We don't have time to go into the Hadith, so we're going to stick to the Quran today. In the Quran, if you break down the verses of the Quran, 22% of it is belief. About affirming your belief and how to believe and who we believe in Allah. 14% talks about community. 13% talks about character. 11% of the Quran is stories, stories of previous prophets and nations, and so on and so forth. pedagogy, admonition, affirmation, an equal divide here of 11%. So we're down to like 90 to 93%. This last 7% is law. Sorry, actually 7% is law. Killing, jihad, and deployment for war are less than 1% each. Is everyone with me there? So let's leave all this out right now. Let's leave this pizza right now for someone else. You can leave it for me, actually. I'm hungry. Let's see this slice here, this $1 New York slice. We want to focus on this one. What is in there? Because what you believe and what I was told to believe and what everyone believes is that your whole Quran and your Prophet's whole life is about a law. You're going to bring Islam to the White House. And you're going to raise the flag of Islam on the White House. You're going to convert every American into a Muslim. If not, we're going to kill them all. That's what's been taught. Don't think what you think. Think what the world thinks. What the world fears, we need to understand those fears. And the only way we can address those fears if we're well versed in our religion. So a person comes up and says, you have Sharia law. Well, excuse me, my Quran Sharia law is only 7% of the Quran. Next slide, please. And I'll explain to you how much of that 7% is actually your concern. 65% of that 7%, 65% of that 7% is about purity, prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, food and drink, and oaths. Do we need a judge for these things? Is this judicial or non-judicial?
Non-judicial.
It's non-judicial. It has nothing to do with going in front of a judge or law. Now, 20% of that, we're getting to 80%, is judiciable issues. For example, contracts, partnerships, endowments, things you need an attorney or you need a lawyer, a judge if needed. And then 10%, so 85, 10, 95% is about probate, custody, marriage, and divorce. So out of 7%, 95% of it has nothing to do with what the fear-mongering is all about. See that little sliver there? The sliver of a sliver? This is about the penal code, international relations, and this is the stuff that they always hold on to. So next slide. So, the implementation of Sharia. We're going to talk about that 5%. Is it a misconception or is it reality? What we've understood is that there's a fixation on the penal code, which is not even 5% of the 35% of judiciable issues from this 100% legal system of Islam, which is a total of 7% of the entire Quran. Take time to read that. It's going to give it's going to give you like a brain freeze, but I promise you, the fixation of the world on this, which is not even a sliver of a sliver, is what made all Muslims run. I'd rather leave my religion than know what it's about. I'd rather denounce the extremist version of it. It's the extremist version of Islam. Islam is Islam. It's simple as that. And if we're not going to learn it and understand it and become well versed in it, then we can't just keep on talking or bad-mouthing those who want to hijack it, because my ignorance is legitimizing them. Does that make sense? If I stay ignorant, I'm allowing them to drive the narrative. Who drives the narrative for Islam? Each and every one of you. If you're a Muslim, Islam drives the narrative. It's driven by you, no one else. Next slide. So implementation. We start with honor killings. Well known in Pakistan and Afghanistan and parts of India. Interestingly, in this discussion, no one talks about what other faiths do. For example, there are certain sects in the Hindu faith where dowry is taken from the woman, right? And if she fails to pay the dowry, sometimes the family burn her alive. We talk about, and I'm not here to compare religions, I'm just here to say, I want you to understand the fixation on Islam and Muslim right now. Why? Why are we so bad? Why are we the evil ones out there right now? So, honor killings always hits the news. What is honor killing? Where in certain cultures, a relative who is a girl or woman is killed because she's brought dishonor to the family. Father must have walked in and she's on TikTok, he kills her. Or she's dating with someone, he kills her. Or she's in love with someone, he kills her. Is this happening in our world, yes or no? Yes, it's happening, okay? There is no ifs and buts about it. The question is, what's the source of it happening? Who's driving it? You need to understand that. So honor killing is something that the world connects with Muslims in Islam. How many verses in the Quran order honor killings, everyone? Oreos. How many? Zero. There is no verse in the Quran that says if your daughter brings dishonor to you or your wife that dishonors your family name, you go and kill her. Zero. How many hadith, traditions of the Prophet ﷺ order honor killing? Zero. There is a story, interesting. There's a story of Hilal bin Umayyah who caught his wife having an affair with another companion. The hadith is right here, 47. In respective time, you can read it yourself, but I'll tell you one thing, he didn't kill her. It's a very interesting story what happened between him and his wife after he found that she was having an affair with another companion. Again, there was no killing there. The Quran actually teaches us how to deal with this situation in Surah Nur, the light, verse 7 to 9, about bringing forth witnesses. If someone is accused of sexual relations or something that dishonors a family, they'll bring their witnesses and then they'll curse themselves if they're wrong. It's like a mula'ana. They curse each other. They curse themselves if they're wrong. Simple as that. You go home. God will take care of the rest. If there is no hard and fast evidence that someone has done something wrong, you can't do anything about it. Did we forget that Islam under the Caliphate also had a judicial system? People didn't just practice the law as they wanted and they deemed fit on the streets. Every block didn't have its own, judge or lawyer. There's a system. You would go to the judge. You would go before the judge. Before that, they would go to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ and go before the Prophet ﷺ and have their matters resolved. So there's a system. So anyways, honor killing has nothing to do with Islam. Everyone's here with me? Everyone agrees? Please insert this into our memory card here. Honor killing has nothing to do with Islam. What is the primary cause of honor killing? Culture. And that's why I hate cultures. I hate all cultures. Divorce the culture from the religion. Divorce the culture from the religion because it's a culture that's smearing the name of Islam. And people are so intoxicated by culture, they don't even understand what they're doing. It doesn't even represent Islam. And in actuality, it doesn't even represent humanity. It doesn't even represent a civil human being. Allah forgive us all. Next one. Honor killing. Next one. So beheadings and amputation. So killing someone, I wanted to change that word. I didn't do that. So killing someone or amputating parts of their body. It's capital punishment is a sentence for a person who is a convicted murderer if the family demands it. So what happens is that if someone murdered someone and they went before the judge and it was proven that they are the murderer, the question now becomes what's their punishment? There are two options. Either the three options. Either the family can forgive the individual, Number two, blood money, where they have to pay a fine. And the three is that they'll be killed. I want to point out one thing here, and I didn't fix it on the slide, is Islam does not impose the method of killing a person. Beheadings is not in the Quran or Hadith. A person will be killed. That's it. How will they be killed? The system could decide that. So, that would happen. A male apostate who's a threat to the state, I'll talk about that soon. A convicted thief will have their hand amputated, and the definition is if they steal something which is more equivalent to the value of 10 silver coins, we'll just leave the rest. Let me explain this to you. What is theft? So long there isn't a system of governance in a society where everyone has access to basic needs, where no one needs to steal, no one's hand's going to be chopped. Because our religion teaches us, what's your name, brother? You have any child? Yes. Gibson. You host me, and I'm your guest. I come to your house, and for some odd reason, you're not feeding me. Islam allows me to steal from your fridge and eat food. Those hot pockets in the freezer, I'm allowed to eat it. Why? Because it's a dire need. So long society creates these holes in which people are suffering and someone steals for their life, they're not going to be punished under Sharia law. But when a system was set up in Medina where everyone has access to their basic needs, and there's also Baytul Mal where you can go and get financial aid and help, and despite that you are stealing, then the person's hand would be cut. Next slide.
So if he doesn't open the door
If he doesn't?
If he doesn't open the door, he's still allowed under Sharia to steal?
So under Sharia, he would be allowed to steal if the need was there. I think there's cases here in America, some lady stole eggs from Walmart and she got a jail sentence for that. There's some weird stories that happen in our country also, but basically in Sharia, if the system isn't set up in a way where a person shouldn't have an excuse to steal for their rights, for their needs, they can have their hand cut off if the judge orders. Does that make sense?
Is there how did Sharia start?
We're on that right now. It's the system that's set up from 4 angles: the Quran and the Prophet's way, and how people agreed upon how it should be implemented.
Yeah, my question is, when did it start?
Right after the time of the Prophet Muhammad, 622 CE.
Because based on articles, they say that it started with the law of Moses.
So, as I said earlier, Sharia is a system of divine law, how to live your life, that started from Noah, Prophet Noah, before Moses. It incorporated Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, peace be upon all of them, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
So Prophet Muhammad came later, much later than Moses.
Yes.
So if the law of Moses, I'm not Jewish,
No, that's me.
but if the law
I know I had to be thrown in there, we're good.
but if the law of Moses started much later than Muhammad, so that means the Muslims should go by the law of Torah.
Good question. I like that. So basically, what happens is that revelation from Allah, from God, came down to specific prophets and specific people for specific time. Now, for example, the Torah came to Moses. Huh?
I'm a proud Christian.
And I'm saying, and if you look in the Bible, for example, there's nowhere in the Bible that talks about the laws of food and the ethics surrounding food. Jesus,
No,
peace
you
be
don't-
upon him,
you
talks
don't-
about.
Jesus talks about faith and love.
Correct. And when Jesus talks about the laws pertaining to food, dietary laws, he refers them back to Moses and the Torah. He tells them as it's in the Old Testament. So a lot of what Jesus, peace be upon him, came down to do.
Jesus said, I did not come to change
Yes.
the
The
law,
law of
I
Moses.
came to
Yes.
fulfill.
Yes.
So, however, he said what he did. He said you have to, if you have faith and love, and love means not to have sex or whatever. Love means to love your neighbor like you love yourself. So if you have one, you don't have nothing. So if you have both, then you are safe. So what I don't understand, if Muhammad came hundreds of years later after Moses,
Yes.
and Sharia started with the law of Moses, everybody started. Torah, Quran, Bible, all of them, that we have the same base. Of course, because Satan is smarter than me, you, and millions
Yes.
for centuries. He makes it a little bit to everyone to think they are better. Of course, everyone is their decision to choose whatever they. We all are indoctrinated somehow, but I like to indoctrinate myself the way I like. I don't like to be. I hope you don't give me a bad grade because I open my mouth.
No.
That's what you're here for.
No.
That's what you're here
This is what you learn. I want
This
you
is
to
what I don't understand. If all we have, all of us, all three main religions, because everybody else is 12, right? So if all three of us, Muslim, Christianity, and Jewish, we all have the same basis with the law of Moses, and then Muhammad came hundreds of years later, why this big separation? Because Muslims, they have to follow the law of Moses. That's when Sharia law started.
So, just to clarify that, in the Quran it speaks about how Jesus, peace be upon him, says that he came to reaffirm what Moses had brought. In addition to the word that Jesus, peace be upon him, got, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to the Muslims is the final messenger, and he brought an entire new system of law, which, so the Judaic law is more on the harsher side, a very strict upholding of the faith which puts a person in difficulty or at ease physically, but it's okay because spiritually it's benefiting you. Like the salah, it's going to start right after sundown. Don't use an oven, don't use an elevator, don't pick up your phone. So they believe that this is the law, and it's a more stricter
Yeah, but
version
if
of law.
something falls
We're-
into, someone falls into water, you still go to pick up, so that's not a sin if you still do something.
Again, you will find in Judaism many different branches of people who will and who will not. Again, it's
That's
how
the
people.
law. We
Yes.
talk about the law, so the
Yes,
law
so-
says that.
So law says that. And in Christianity, a lot of what the core laws are about, the laws of ethics, laws of character and society, etc., Jesus, peace be upon him, came to reinforce that in the people as they started swaying away from it. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't come to start something or end something. He came to give a whole new page. But if you look at what's in the Quran and what's in the Torah and what's in the Bible, there are core similarities, and those core similarities actually connect us to the fact that the author, the one who has given us these laws and ways of life, is Allah. Our God has given us this way to practice. If that makes
Sure.
sense.
Thank you. So,
Okay?
you know,
No, you're good, you're good. It's fine. So we go on to the next one. So beheading and amputation. We'll go on to the next slide, please. So public stoning. There is a thing about public stoning. It happened at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's when a person who is married has intercourse with a person who's not their spouse. There are 5 incidents that have, occurred in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the beauty in all of them is that the people who committed that adultery actually testify against themselves. Understand one thing about Islam. There's one thing amongst the many things that are prohibited is spying. We can't spy on people. What happens behind people's closed doors is no one's business. What is defined as adultery, and of course, another point, there's no stoning in the Quran. Look through the whole Quran, there's no stoning. There's lashing. Okay? And the only way, and it's, of course, stoning did happen because of 2 reasons. Stoning was the initial law of the Quran, only because the premise of the law of Medina, Yathrib, was stoning. And it goes back to the Judaic law. That if someone commits adultery, they'll be stoned. So when the Quran was revealing these verses, the verse that came down was if an old man or an old woman commit adultery, they will be stoned, minimizing the chances for this to happen. But again, what's the premise behind this is ensuring that morality is upheld in the public society. The only way anyone can be punished for adultery is if they do it in the open. We haven't gone there yet. Of course, we have internet, and people could live stream what they want, but the thing is, until it's not public, no one can assume. If a man and a woman, if you know this man is married to someone else and he's holding the hand of a woman, he cannot claim they've committed adultery. If he's hugging her, it's not adultery. If he's kissing her, it's not adultery. Adultery is when 4 mature, sane adults see a man and a woman in the act, and I want to elaborate more than that. That is then called adultery. So not only are these rules, in a way, hard to actually implement, the reason behind they're so hard to actually enforce is because the premise, it's so hard to reach that point. That 2 people would have mutual sex in the open, in the public, where 4 people could actually see that. So stoning is not in the Quran. It was abrogated. It was brought in with the verse that talks about lashing. And the incidents that occurred in Medina at the time of Prophet, all of these people came to Prophet and testified that they did it, and they wanted to be punished for that. Next slide. Flogging is again for fornication, slandering, and that is whips. And again, the premise behind all this is that there has to be proof, there has to be solid, concrete evidence that this stuff has happened. Hearsay, it doesn't work in Sharia law. No one can, fudge the evidence up or mess it up. No, it has to be clear and light of day. If it isn't, for example, slander, let's say slander. So just say 4 people come and say that X and Y committed adultery. And the judge hears from X and Y, and then judge hears from the 4. And all 4 of them give similar testimony, but one of them gives slightly different. They will be punished for that. The people testifying will be punished because their story doesn't match the claim they brought before the judge. Does that make sense? Islam makes it very hard not just for these laws to be enforced, but it makes it such if someone tries to mess with the laws, they will be punished for that. Is that okay for everyone? Let's go to the next one.
In the Ten Commandments, isn't that thou shalt not bear false witness? It's kind of similar to that.
Same thing. Yes. Alhamdulillah. Next one. Okay, now here we get into a very interesting topic. How much time do we have? We have to have the Q&A also, right? So let's see if we can rush through it. Okay, so now this is the biggest problem in the Muslim world today, where people feel and believe that Muslim women don't have a say for themselves, for their life. They can't choose who to marry. They're shunned from society. This narrative has been driven for so long. And I'm confident many Muslim sisters have a bitter taste in their mouth with Islam because of this, either because of the narrative or an experience. I'm not here to legitimize that narrative, and I'm not here to question the scenarios in which this is happening. A lot is happening in the name of Islam. And the only way to change it is to take back what Islam means to you and what Islam is. If not, these things will only continue to exacerbate. So there's accusations that a woman's testimony is half of a male's. How many of us have heard that? Yes? Okay. That she only gets half of what a male gets in inheritance. We've heard that. She can be forced to marry whoever the parents decide. She has no say. You've heard that? Yes? Okay. And husbands can beat them. Have you heard this? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, everyone? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here in brief, the verse pertaining to a woman's testimony is only in regards to business and trade. Okay? And I'll explain to you the premise behind that. In that long verse of the Quran that talks about testimony, it's in regards to contracts of business and trade. And it's such an amazing way Allah has addressed this. The fact that Allah said that a woman can back another in testimony in regards to a case that involves a contract or a dealing that happened between two people that went sour is not only to uphold both of their integrity in a system that if you are a liar or you're presumably a liar because you didn't explain what you thought correctly, you can lose the legitimacy of your word in society. Allah said to women, okay? Now understand here, women were not also equally involved in the markets. So this is also a way for Allah to say, get yourselves into the market. Get yourself into this. Acquaint yourself with this. If women are acquainted with business and trade ethics and contracts, she can stand up and testify herself. Do you understand what I just said there? Yes or no? Women were told 2-1 in regards to contracts, in business contracts. Indirectly, Allah is saying, because you're not even involved in this stuff. Men were the majority of those who ran the markets. And indirectly, women are being inspired to get into the markets also. And that's why it's written, if a woman is well-versed, she can stand up and testify herself.
How do you derive that this verse is promoting women to be in the workforce?
Because Islam never made a restriction for women to be in the workforce. If Khadija radiallahu anha was a merchant and she ran her own business, and the Prophet ﷺ never condemned her when he became a prophet, said, hey, you can't go to work, you have to stay home, and you can't make money. It's legitimate in Islam, it's jaiz, it's permissible for a woman to make money. So why are women not going out and making money? In Islam, a woman's money is her money. She doesn't have to spend it on others. So if Islam has given us these teachings, what is void is women actively participating in building the society in the world. It should not be shunned or condemned is my point. It should be left open that she can get into it. And our cultures are the ones that have for too long restricted women from educating, restricted women from getting out there to learn. Of course, morality and ethics are a great part of our religion for both men and for women. But she should not be restricted to do so under the name that the religion says you can't.
But the religion also doesn't promote it.
Again, it doesn't promote it. Yes, you're right. But it doesn't condemn it.
It encourages women to stay at home because it's better and safer for them
A woman's...
Rasulullah said it's best for a woman to stay at home. But I'm not saying stay at home and do nothing. But she said the masjid is also a place where she should go. But there's so many hadiths that promote that a woman is a mother, she has a lot of tasks at home, so why are we forcing her to go? Because what you're saying is basically the same things we have these movements saying, where our women need to be out there and need to start working, and we're promoting and pushing them to be, I don't want to say like Sunnah.
If you want to understand, I said the morals and the ethics of Islam apply to all of us, right? Now, there was a case when the women were coming to the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, some of the Sahabas, males, had issues with that. They did. You know, why are these women coming here? And interesting to understand, when the masjid was built, only a section of it was roofed. And that's where the Prophet ﷺ stood and led. But then the Qibla changed. So the Prophet ﷺ is now leading prayer in the open, and the women are under the roof. Okay? And some of the Sahabas had a little bit of issue. They had reservations. One night, and the women used to only come in the dark prayers, Isha and Fajr. One night, a woman was harassed, per se. As she was coming to the masjid or going home from the masjid. It was brought to the Prophet ﷺ about this. And we didn't say, no, women should now stop and don't come. Matter of fact, Imam Malik, rahimahullah, there's an incident recorded that at the time of the Prophet, time after the Prophet ﷺ, Imam Malik was asked the fatwa that women would exceed the parameters of the masjid, so the men would be praying in the front, women in the back, and there'd be so much that they trickle outside the masjid. And a man who's coming late for prayer has no choice but to pray behind the women, because the men's section you can't access, and this is all you have. So the question was asked to Imam Malik, rahimahullah, is a woman's prayer accepted? He said, is a man's prayer accepted? And he said yes, even though she's praying behind the women. It's just like haram. When you go to Makkah, Medina, but in Makkah, if that's the scenario, and that was the scenario then, it's fine. The question was never if women are allowed to come to the masjid. The question isn't that women, but the question is also, it's not, the question also that we're questioning is, do women only stay at home? No doubt a woman builds the family. No doubt a woman can do what a man can do when it comes to building and nurturing the next generation of humans. But that's not a job for the entire human life. A woman's job is to nurture the child. A father's job is to raise the child, contrary to our cultures. And that's why Nuh alayhi salam is pleading with his son. Why not the mother? Because it's a father's job now to make sure that the sons and the daughters, become who they are. A woman's job is to nurture. So when we take everything that we have, and it's mumbo jumbo, and you kind of clarify it. Yes, our Islam gives precedence or preference for a mother to be a nurturer to her child. But outside of that, a woman does have the right to create her own business, to educate herself, to learn, to contribute to society, but again, within the parameters of morals and ethics which our religion teaches us. And since those parameters were never set, and since that leeway, that opportunity wasn't given, you're going, in our so-called Muslim countries right now, we're going from ultra-conservatism to ultra-liberalism. It's just a psychological thing. You push people, and now you let go, boom. So Islam is what? Now, as I was telling the sister here about Judaism and Christianity, where Judaism was more of a stricter, Christianity was a bit more easy, and Islam is ummatan wasata. It's a very moderate path. We don't go ifrat and tafreed. We don't believe in either sides of extremism. We stay in the moderate path. So that's basically the point, if you get that point, right? It's not about women should go outside. It's as much as it's not about women should stay in the home. Yes, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said a time will come when there'll be such trials and tribulations that you will lock your women in the homes. And that means, of course, you're not going to lock them and go outside and party or something. You're all going to get home, because things will become so confusing in the world that you'd rather stay in the confinements of your home because it's going to be so toxic outside. So within context. Make sense? Okay, alhamdulillah. So testimony has been thing. A woman's testimony was reduced only for the sake of business and trade. I explained that. As for equality, first of all, understand Allah created all genders equal. Everyone say that? Allah created all genders equal. Inna sa'yakum lashatta. Your roles in society will vary. but equality of Allah's creation is in the Quran. So a man and a woman before Allah as a creation are equal. As for inheritance, let's go to the next slide. The assumption is a woman will always get half of what a man does, and that's not the case. I don't have time to even open this up and talk about this, but let me give it to you in a nutshell. A woman will inherit less than a man in 4 scenarios, similar to a man in 10 scenarios, and more than a man in 14 scenarios. It all goes down to the circumstances. When a person dies, who's left behind? A son and a daughter, a brother and a sister, a mother and a father, a daughter and grandchildren. It all goes down to the scenario. So, and actually the verse in the Quran, يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُم, in Surah Nisa, that talks about what a woman gets and who gets what. Allah explains the different percentages based on scenario. So again, for those who say a woman's inheritance, she only gets less than a man, is a flawed understanding of the verses of the Quran. Want the next slide, Sean? According to how things happen in Europe, in the medieval times, unmarried women who inherited large amounts of land from their fathers or ancestors generally had the same rights as men, although they were forced to surrender their land to their husbands when they were married. So how Europe, the culture in Europe was that a woman can get her inheritance share from her father or her ex-husband, whatever it may be, or her husband who passed away. But if she marries, again, her master, as it would be written, her master would own everything that she possessed. To point out a very simple point, that a system that existed in our world in the recent history had its fair share of problems in it. Moving on to marriage. In Islam, yes, a minimum age of marriage has not been set. What is the age here in America that a girl becomes an adult? 18? At 18, she could walk out of the house. At 18, she's an adult. At 18, she could make her own decisions. What's the premise behind that? Why 18? No more questions there, right? Well, you finish high school, it's 18. Good. You can do what you want. In Islam, we don't have an age number set for what constitutes as a girl becoming an adult, because that differs. A girl can have her menses at 12, a girl can have her menses at 18. It is when she starts having her monthly period that she is now termed in Islam an adult. Does that make sense for everyone? So since a minimum age, why was a minimum age for marriage not set? Because the purpose of marriage in Islam is not sex or love or lust. It's procreation. You have kids, you create the next progeny. And that can only happen once a girl is an adult. And she is known as an adult when she is able to have a child. And when I was studying in England back in the 90s, there was an article in the newspaper of a girl who had a baby at age 11. Okay, it all goes down to what age you can be to have a child. So Islam did not set a minimum age. It's clear. But also we have to understand that a girl cannot be married out, she cannot be married off without her consent. So a child and a girl and a woman, let's explain this here. Is child marriage in Islam, yes or no? Please tell me, yes or no?
No.
You have to be strong on this, yes or no?
No.
There is no child marriage. There is so much discussion that could happen on not the hadith, it's an athar. It is a word of Aisha radiallahu anha where she talks about 6 and 9. But if you look at history, if you look at her age with Asma radiallahu anha, she was at least 18 years old. She was not 6 and 9. So there's so much that contradicts that. Not only is that so much that contradicts that, the fact is in the Quran it talks about divorce. When a woman gets divorced, she has to go into a waiting period for how much? 3 cycles of menses. A girl doesn't have menses, a woman has menses. A woman and a girl, their age isn't defined in Islam, it's based on when they reach the age of puberty. Does that make sense to everyone? So, no minimum age, and no one in Islam can be forced to marry. A girl came to the Prophet ﷺ, a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and said that my father married me without my consent, and he said, do you agree with it? And she said, he said to her, if you don't agree, I'll break the marriage. And then she sat for a while, she thought, she said, I'll keep the marriage. I just wanted to know that I have a choice. So forced marriages, which still happen, especially in the Indian subcontinent, it has nothing to do with Islam. It's wrong. Moving on. Oh, sorry, going back. Okay, rape has not been sanctioned in Islam. I wish I could go into that topic. We have minimal time. Let's talk about spousal abuse. People say in Islam, and again, domestic violence is a big problem in this country. Domestic problems are a big problem in this country. And a lot of people then say, look at you Muslims. Is there domestic violence in Muslim countries? A whole lot of it. A whole lot of it. But what do they stand on? They stand on that broken foot saying Islam said it. Well, let's ask that question. Did Islam actually tell us that we can hit? What says, فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ in the Quran, hit them. Right? It says in the Quran, hit them. Separate your bed, stop talking to them, and then hit them. It's in the Quran. So the Quran is telling us to hit our women. Is that what it is? You see, understand one thing. What's gone so wrong in our religion today is that some people will interpret it and everyone will have to believe it. And no one's using their common sense. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never struck any of his wives. Never, 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 never. Aisha radiallahu anha, who's the youngest of all the wives, said the Prophet ﷺ never touched any of us. Okay, so if the Quran is saying hit, but the Prophet ﷺ didn't hit, do we have a problem here, yes or no? Think, if the Quran is saying you can hit, you have the green light to hit. But then Aisha radiallahu anha is saying, and the Prophet ﷺ himself is saying that the best of you is best to your family, and I'm the best to my family. And she says, he never hit us. There's something missing here. So, going back here. A husband has been made in charge of the family. The qawwamuna ala nisa, that verse that talks about a man is qawwam. It doesn't mean he's superior or a force. It means the buck stops with him. What does that mean? If something has to be done in the house, for the family, there's going to be consultation. The husband will make the decision on what happens for it. And if it's right or wrong, he's accountable in this world and he's accountable before Allah. On the day of judgment, Allah will say, you made this decision for your home. So qawwam doesn't mean that you're in charge. I mean, you could abuse them, you could bash them, you could do whatever you want with them. No, it means that the buck stops on the man. He's going to be asked on the day of judgment. There has been no license granted to anyone to abuse. Let's go to the next slide. Here's where we get into the interesting part of this. If you look at this, there's that word darb, hit. And there are so many meanings for darb. And if you look at the Quran and you look at the Hadith, you understand what meaning fits in right. Well, no, Imam, darb means hit. I study Arabic, darb means hit. Okay, let me not argue with you. Let's go to the Quran. Allah says, have you not seen كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا? How Allah hit an example? Did Allah say there's an example there? Hit it? Is that what Allah saying? Allah set forth an example. He used the word darb, but he explained it with set forth. When it talks about you're in war, you're with the enemy's after you, what you do, darb riqab. Did Allah say hit their necks? Hey, come here, you're my enemy, right? No, it means chop their heads off. You're in war here. It's active war. What does the Quran also say about the hijab? This, mashallah, sisters are wearing. Let them hit their hijab on their bosoms. Do you hit it? No, it means to cover. So darab has multiple meanings. And if we look at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was an incident that occurred in Medina when some of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ came together and said, let's tell the Prophet ﷺ, you know what? We've lived through a lot of hardship. You know, it's been there were times when there was months there was no food in the house. You know, can we live a little bit better life now? Kind of just up a notch. The Prophet ﷺ got so mad with that, he left his home. He stayed away from his family for weeks. The talk of the town was the Prophet ﷺ divorced all his wives. Umar is coming and he's scolding his daughter. Abu Bakr is coming and scolding his daughter. What did you do to the Prophet ﷺ? He had an opportunity there to hit his wives. Did he hit them? No. He shunned them. He walked away. So what does that verse mean in the Quran? That if your wife does something against your desire, what's this desire? Oh, the chapati wasn't round enough, or the rice wasn't hot enough, or the chicken wasn't well cooked. No, it means if you as a husband who's been made responsible by God, qawwamun, that God's going to ask you, and your wife is doing something that's breaking the commands of Allah and bringing the anger of Allah to your home, you're responsible to tell her. If she doesn't listen, you stop talking to her. If she still doesn't listen, you separate your bed from her. If she still doesn't listen, you walk away from her. There is no way that the Prophet ﷺ hit his wife because it stated he didn't, and there's no way that the translation can go into that. Because you go now into the interpretation of this. Some of the Egyptian scholars will say what it means to hit your wife is you get your shoulder like this and you push your wife. You know what the Pakistani scholars say? You take her hijab and you touch her with that. Some say you get a miswak, a toothbrush stick, and touch her. Does that even make sense? The Prophet ﷺ never hit his wife. So that word darab in that verse cannot mean anything to me but this word here. And we can open that for discussion later. Next thing. Now, we talk about Muslim countries and child marriages. It's happening. Do you know child marriage was legal in America? It still is legal in many states. Did you all know that? Yes or no? It's legal. It's legal in this country. We get so caught up in the demonization of the religion that we forget that in this country, you can marry, a parent could marry off their child daughter to their rapist, or to whoever they want. You see, I'm pro-abortion, and I'll tell you why. Because in this country, there's a reason why girls are going having abortion, because incest is widespread in this country. And so is rape. Yes. They don't just go and party at age of 12 and get pregnant. No. This stuff is happening as a culture. Can you click the first thing from UC? I think we'll get 5 minutes to discuss that. This is very important. Just press play on that.
We're working with over 3,100 companies globally with the goal of getting 1 billion tons of
Yes,
emissions by
and they do 2 ads
2030,
now, right?
so we can all live better tomorrow.
They did 2 advertisements.
I was just a little girl wanting to have a boyfriend or something like that, and my mom turned it into something way different.
Versus putting the handcuffs on him at 20 years of age. They actually put the handcuffs on me at 11.
When I got
You guys see that
married, I had just
200,000?
turned 13. We stood in my living room and in this ugly dress that my mother bought off the internet. And shortly after getting married, she encouraged us to start having kids. And that's why I had my first son when I was 15. It was a way for me to, I think, be dependent on her. You're cheating? My ex, he was extremely abusive to me, and I was very confused because this is the only guy I had ever been with. So when he started, shoving me and all that stuff while I was pregnant, like I thought, like this is my life. Wait, how could this be? I felt like I was in slavery to it. I was a slave to my ex. I was a slave to this, idea that my mother wanted us to all be together and for me to have kids so young and to do all of that. I still have all of this emotional baggage of wanting to have done something with my life by now. It is really all the time that I think about what I could have done or could have been.
Well, we're here in Idaho talking about Angel's story because this state has one of the highest rates of child marriage anywhere in the country. Now, the rules are different for each state, but in 25 of them, there is no set minimum age below which a child can't get married. Even in all of the other states where there is a minimum age set, it can be as low as 13 or 14 years old. While the US is just waking up to this problem, here's a list of countries who, in the last 3 years, have completely banned child marriage.
So when we've set our foreign policy and we're going around the world, what we're saying is marriage before 18 is a human rights abuse, forces girls into adulthood before they're ready, and you need to end it. But at home, in the United States, in year 2017, marriage before 18 is illegal in all 50 states. Our clients, they come from every socioeconomic level. Really, the commonality that we see among our clients is that they're almost always girls, and that the perpetrators are almost always their parents.
Sherry Johnson is trying to convince politicians in her home state of Florida to change the laws that allowed her to be forced to marry at the age of just 11.
I got married to my rapist. The guy that raped me, actually my mother, saw fit for me to marry him to make the situation of me getting pregnant, I can say, to make it look better overall. Yeah, marriage license, certified there. He was 20 and I was 11. 16, I had 6 children. What do I do? No finances. I have to depend on this man that I married. I smile from the outside, but the inside is crying. That actually was my life. So having children and trying to survive and live for them, it wasn't even about me anymore.
Both Angel and Sherry are still feeling the impact of having their own childhood stolen from them. But there is little to stop what happened to them happening to a child in much of America today.
So take a breath and just take that in. This is the 20th, this is in the year, the 2000s, this is not anything before that. So what happened here in 2018, the Muslim organization here started pushing for that next piece. So in 2018, when this became the topic, there was an effort, so the Florida House wanted to, let's go back down. Yeah. So Florida House wants to allow some child marriages. In 2018, when this bill was presented to the House, that, you know what, we have to ban this thing here in Florida. No, you really can't ban it. And so it went on. That's right. We'll go to you. So then what happened was there was a bill made that was to outlaw marriage in Kentucky. Forget that. In Florida, and it was in the 11th hour of the final session where this lady that you talked about, that we just heard from, that the governor accepted to ban certain marriages in the state. So there are ways you can work around, and an old man can walk in with a young girl to a Florida court and actually get married with her. This is happening in 2018. It wasn't as simple as you would think it is. Ban it. What is the issue? But no. There's a reason, I don't know why, that these things are so difficult to just say stop. So this is happening in our country. And this was under Governor Rick Scott, who was really, it was Governor Scott at that time. It's sad. I don't even have the words for that. We'll go back to the slides. I don't have the words to explain that how this bill, which is so self-explanatory, had to go all the way to the 11th hour of the final day for them to kind of adjust it and then pass somewhat of it, where a rapist can still marry the one she's raped, the one that's been raped by him. We'll go on to the next slide. So let's go down the path just so that we are clear. Islam does not allow child marriages, yes or no? Islam did not set a minimum age, yes or no? And the reason it didn't set it because anyone can become adult at a different age, yes or no? A girl will not be forced into marriage, she will have her consent in marriage, and if she is divorced, which she has a right to ask for in Islam, she will have to pass through 3 menses before she could get married to someone else. Again, she has to be a woman. If we go back to medieval times, in 1396, Richard II of England married Isabel at the age of 7. The Duchess of Milan married at 13. Again, just look at these ages. Let's go to the next slide. Let me spend more time. Next slide. And sorry, go back. I think I missed something. They're having children. Some of them had children at those young ages. So she was married at 9. She was her marriage was consummated at 9. She was married at 14. Relationship happened at 9. Married at 14 and gave birth at 15. This was a norm in Europe. Next slide. We're not here to call people out or to question history or to badmouth other people as a way of saying, okay, you talk dirt about us, we have dirt on you. No. Our goal as Muslims is wherever we live and wherever we go, we have to help fix the problems in society. And that's what our Sharia tells us. In America, 20 people per minute are facing physical abuse by an intimate partner. It's happening right now. We've been here for how long? An hour and 40 minutes? How many people were abused in that time? More than 10 million people a year. 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines. And 1 in 5 children are exposed to this type of violence. It is such a vicious, toxic thing happening in our society. And for those of you who are studying law and who are pursuing a life of service to this country, I would ask you to help address these issues. And for the rest of us, to create an environment where domestic abuse doesn't exist. Islam does not advocate for domestic abuse at all. If you guys don't like each other, stop fighting. Stop worrying about what the world will say. Get a divorce and walk your way. Don't go down this path where what will people say, what will my family say, or I have kids. Leave each other. The reason there is divorce in Islam and then there's khula in Islam, does anyone know what khula is? Khula is where a woman will ask for divorce. A divorce is when a man will give a divorce. Why is that angle of khula? Because everything that predated that and everything that postdated that till a recent time, a woman had no say. Rape in this country is a problem. And so is incest. Study that and find out what's going on. It's crazy. Next slide. So, we don't have time to go jihad and kafir. So, okay, there are verses in the Quran that talk about jihad. Is there jihad in the Quran? Yes. What is jihad? Jihad is not holy war. There is no such thing as holy war. There is no text in Islam's text. No word in the Quran and Hadith that says harbu muqaddasa, holy war. There's nothing. Holy war is a concept that came from the Crusades, blessed by the Pope back in those days. So there is no holy war in Islam. All the war verses pertaining to war in the Quran pertain to the scenario and circumstances that legitimize war to happen under Islamic government if the need becomes. The first war was Battle of Badr. The verses in Surah Al-Fal that talk about the war talks about Badr. Surah Al-Imran talks about Uhud. Surah Ahzab talks about coalition forces. And of course, Surah Tawbah talks about Tabuk. What am I trying to say here? The Quran sets a framework of when war will happen. And the majority of these wars were defensive wars and also wars to stop evil of violation of human rights from continuing. Point is, the framework was given in the Quran. And the incidents were told to us through the Hadith. That is what is known as jihad. The war aspect of jihad. Jihad also means a struggle. All of us are doing jihad every day. Our sitting here is a jihad. Why? Because we could go anywhere else, but we came here because we want to learn. You're studying here Monday to Friday is your jihad. Jihad means a struggle for a betterment, for better good. For the greater good, sorry. Next slide, inshallah. Now, last thing we'll end with is with the kafir, the infidel. So, a kafir, the word kufr, kafara, means to conceal or cover. It's been used in the Quran to refer to farmers who conceal the seed into the ground. It's also used for someone who conceals the truth and that results in disbelief. The question arises, is every person who is not a Muslim a kafir, an infidel? No. An infidel, as they translated it, which isn't the translation, a kafir is someone who what? Who conceals. So anyone who knows Islam for what it is, and then conceals its goodness and denies that goodness is called a kafir. Does everyone understand that? Mass majority of humans in this world don't even understand what Islam is. They understand different aspects of how Islam is presented. They don't know what Islam is. So we don't have right to call everyone who's not a Muslim a kafir. Okay? Anyone who knows Islam for what it is and the goodness that it brings, but then they deny it, reject it, i.e. conceal it, they're a kafir. Okay? Make sense? They've rejected it. Everyone's with me here? Does that mean we kill everyone? No. How do you treat a kafir? Next slide, please. How do you, next slide. Yeah, here it is, thank you. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Allah says to our kafirun, I don't worship what you worship, you don't worship what I worship, I don't worship what you worship, nor will you worship what I worship. For you is your religion and for me is my religion. Look, you don't want to accept Islam, that's fine. You do your thing, I do my thing. Simple as that. You walk your way, I go my way. Simple. So now where does this thing come of killing the kafir? It comes when a person who knows what Islam is, now this is Islamic government, and this person knows what Islam is, they don't want to accept Islam, that's fine. Lakum dinukum waliya din. You have your way, I have my way. But now what they're doing is that they are trying to instigate harm against the religion, against the people, and against the government. What do we call that here in America? We call it treason. If you live in America, Anwar al-Awlaki's son was killed by drone in Yemen a few years ago, and the question came up that he was an American citizen. How did America kill one of its own? And what the American government said was he committed treason. There was no case to be upheld there. So there's a law in America that if a person commits treason, they can be killed for it. Here, what is happening under the context is this. First of all, every American who has a tattooed infidel, they've got the wrong translation of kafir. Okay, and kafir means a person who knows it, who understands it, who leaves it, who doesn't want it, who doesn't want it, not leaves it, who doesn't want it. Live your life, we live our life. But now when you're going to come and threaten not just the Muslims or Islam, but you're actually threatening the system of governance, you will be killed for that. Does that make sense? Everyone's kind of shocked on that one? Kind of follow the treason line, same thing. Any person who then goes and tries to commit a crime to harm the government or the people of the society will be killed for that. That is what we're talking about kafir. Let me get one slide like this. Yeah, it's their last slide. So the question now becomes, Muslims are practicing their Sharia, Christians are practicing their Sharia, Jews are practicing their Sharia, atheists and agnostics are practicing their Sharia. Everyone's practicing what they want. Yes? Your choice. Do Muslims have an agenda to actually come to this country in Europe, infiltrate the society, get into all fields, and then control this country? No, we don't. Sharia is a personal choice. Islam is your personal choice. There's no imposition of Islam anywhere. You are actually practicing your Sharia by how you dress, what you eat, how you pray, when you pray, the whole 9 yards. It's your Sharia. Sharia does not mean the penal law system, which we covered to the best of our ability in the time that we had. So Islam does not have any agenda to impose its way on the world. Did everyone get that? Mm-hmm. If there is Islamic governance, only then can the civil Sharia be applied. In the absence of an Islamic government, civil Sharia cannot be applied, but all other aspects of Sharia can be applied. If two people are getting divorced, they can decide to follow the Quranic way and how to solve their matters when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to child custody. There's so many things we can do. We have the ability to practice that. So the question becomes that if you're not here to impose a religion, then what is ISIS and their kind saying to the world? There's constantly saying, death to America, or this is going to happen, what's going to happen? I don't know. If you look at all of these terrorist organizations and their affiliates, they constitute 0.006 of 1% of the 1.9 billion Muslims globally. ISIS at that time when I did this last presentation, I think they're 9 years old now. Islam is over 1,456 years old. So the sad thing, as I told you, go back to the beginning. This is Sharia. You got Islamophobes, you got Islamic extremists. And they're pulling this string, and that's all of us. Islamophobia, if it gets us hard enough, we'll just leave our religion. And if we don't like that and we detest that, we can start thinking in an extremist fashion. Your Sharia is the way you live. And your Sharia allows you to live in a way that you don't impose on anyone else and no one shall impose on you. Where you're respectful of other people and their ways, and you would expect that they are respectful to you also. America is the only model country in the world right now where this can actually continue to happen, where people of all walks of life that come, live, work, celebrate, practice, without any threat to another. No other country in this world is giving that opportunity as America is. So in conclusion, if there is an opportunity to live a life where you fulfill your duties to your Lord and your religion and yourself and your family and your community, it's here in America. But what it requires is that you understand what your religion is first. Our religion is not just prayers and fasting. It's not about a hijabathon or it's about a fasting day. It's more than that. And when we as Muslims, who are Muslims here, respectfully understand our religion and exemplify that to those who are not Muslims, that personal interaction that non-Muslims will have with Muslims will be more convincing than what they hear and see on the media. We will never have, as a Muslim community in America, will never have the ability to create a media source that will outdo the sources that are out there right now. We will not be able to drive our narrative with the microphone or the megaphone as the rest are. But how we can do it as Muslims who are Muslims here is to exemplify what our religion is. Islam is about submission. It's not about surrendering. Submission is with your choice. Surrender is when you have no choice. Islam, you submit. It's a religion of peace. And if you exemplify that peace, you will be able to change the narrative of Islam in the world once again. So that, thank you so much to all of you. Jazakumullah khairan. Any questions? Anyone?
What is mushrik?
A mushrik is someone who associates partners with Allah. Someone who believes in Allah but believes in other things that are alongside with Allah. Back in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was they believed in Allah, but they believed in Lat and Uzza, two major gods, and they believed in a whole bunch of smaller gods, which meant that you couldn't go directly to Allah. You had to go through the gods to get to God. That's a type of shirk, a type of association of partnership with Allah. But there are many other ways of understanding that concept also. If our belief in something outweighs our belief in Allah for that thing, then that's also, in Islamic texts, a small level of shirk. Like for example, if I believe that this medicine will heal me and Allah cannot heal me, it could be a type of shirk. It's a deeper discussion. If I believe Allah can facilitate healing in this medicine because Allah is the healer and this is the means, that's not shirk. Again, it goes into a deep theological discussion, but like outwardly, a mushrik in the Quran is someone who associates partners with Allah.
You had a slide that said separated the Quran and like the different schools of thought as far as how the scholars debate amongst themselves.
I didn't separate the school of thoughts. I just put consensus. Where, like,
Yeah.
for example, so like in Islam, and I'm sorry to cut you off here, just to give you context. Islam can never be one global religion. We don't have one hierarchy. We don't have one pope. It's not possible. You know why? Because Islam's laws and rules are, most of them are circumstantial. Like for example, prayer. Prayer is mandatory. No one's going to question that mandate. But prayer has circumstances. For example, a person is sick, they can't stand, they'll sit. They're too sick to sit, they'll lie down. They can't move their body, they'll pray with their eyes. A person has no clothes, they'll pray naked. Circumstances dictate practices in our religion. That is why we can't have a central authority who speaks for all or to all, because circumstances differ. Even within South Florida, what's happening in Fort Lauderdale may not be happening in Miami. What's happening in Miami might not be happening in Coral Springs. So it's so important that whoever is speaking to the people for the religion understands their circumstances and thus presents what's the best aspect of it. I'll continue, sorry. I wanted to put that in just so you have context.
So, as a Muslim, how would I decide which school of thought should I pick or go with? How do you deal with that?
So you know, there's you see hockey is trending nowadays, and you go to a friend who's really an enthusiast of hockey, of the NHL. Like, okay, what team should I pick? Should it be on the color of their jersey or how many games they've won? It's really a wrong approach. The approach is, if I know hockey and I play hockey and I understand the sport and I understand the players who are playing it, I gravitate towards that. For example, for a long time, I was an OKC fan, right? And OKC had good players at one time, but there was something about those young players, the grit that they had. I gravitate, and these guys have it. And actually the team this year has it also. They're building themselves. Although I'm in Dallas, and of course I'm born in Toronto, so I have my allegiances with Luka and with the Raptors. Point is this: if you know it, then you'll know which way to go. You see, if we're going to do that approach, okay, there's only school of thoughts, which one do I want to follow? The approach is going wrong because I just want this short answer of it. And a lot of people are doing this because my parents are Hanafi, but I think I want to be Shafi and stuff. See, school of thoughts were created to do two things. To number one, consolidate the religious practices and teachings in a palatable form so you can just chew it. Because they knew that you and I will have time to travel thousands of miles and pick up books and sit with people and learn the religion. You don't have time in life for that. So they kind of consolidated and gave us a framework, and we can either follow the framework or we can learn the framework for ourselves. And myself, I've studied for 10.5 years. So after studying in 10.5 years, I could become mujtahid mutlaq, which means I could do ijtihad myself. I could take the Quran, Hadith, and Nikah. But I don't do that. Why? Because someone's created the framework. In that framework, we will find ways to adjust. So for example, I follow Hanafi school of thought. Hanafi school of thought is adamantly against combining prayers. And that's the primary Hanafi mindset. But for the Hanafis of today, some of them, like myself and my teacher, are of the opinion if you're traveling or if you're in a position where you will miss your prayer, not every day, you're going to miss your prayer, you would combine them. I pray Zohar with Asr and I pray Isha, Maghrib with Isha. Again, circumstances. So it all goes down to understanding the framework and understanding the leeway that can be in the framework. Our religion today, and what I hate the most, our religion has become a fatwa war. Everyone hears the word fatwa. Even non-Muslims say fatwa, fatwa, you have fatwas. Our religion is fatwa. You know what a fatwa is? A fatwa is a prescription. If you went to a doctor today and he gave you a Prilosec for your heartburn, he gave you omeprazole, right? It's a prescription for you. You don't go home and tell them, okay, we're rolling up omeprazole now, we got heartburn. It doesn't work like that. A fatwa is a legal ruling, an Islamic ruling. It's not actually mandatory. It's prescribed. If I, as a doctor, prescribed you, that doesn't mean you're going to go to the pharmacy. You just said, I don't want it. So it's for a person under that circumstance. It's not for the whole world. And nowadays, everyone's believing in fatwas. So it's all about fatwa shopping. And you'll find anyone saying anything about anything. And so that's, again, our religion has taken a turn. We're focused on the wrong things compared to what we should be focused on right now. That's my thought.
Thank you.
Concerns, thoughts? You know, truth be told.
But you wouldn't like to hear me. We talk after.
Okay, no, that's fine. Just FYI, this slide I usually do it in 3.5 hours. So we kind of crunched it within an hour and 40 minutes. I thank all of you for participating. I know there's a lot to take in, and I know there's a lot that you are questioning compared to what you heard and what you understood. At the end of the day, I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I'm not here to make anyone's mind. I'm here to present what the religion framework is. What's happened is that on a high level, that framework has never been maintained for the longest time. So it now comes down to your responsibility as those who are below those who are supposed to take care of this, to take care of it. Does that make sense? If a father dies in a home, then the eldest son or eldest daughter takes up the reins of responsibility because it's everyone's home, right? So here we have to figure this out. We have to understand and hopefully change the narrative, Because I believe by Allah, if that day comes, when we take back the meaning of Sharia, we will kill two birds with one stone. We will kill the $300 million Islamophobia industry, and we will kill the legitimacy of Islamic extremism. It's done. You can do that. Inshallah, since my co-author told me to say this, I was writing a book many years ago on Shariah Law with my friend. He's here in Florida in Malbuki. He's Jewish. He also worked as a state attorney for Ohio. He and I started writing a book on this. We stopped in between. We just finished the book. It's going through a second round of edits. Inshallah, it'll be coming out end of this year, not probably next year. It's a very unique angle of Sharia, American perception and Western perception on Sharia, and clarifying a lot of misconceptions and doubts. It's like a dialogue, a three-part dialogue in Alhamdulillah. It's almost ready, so I ask Allah, I pray that He helps me and Bob, and He guides us so that we can get this work out to everyone in the masses. And that's what we've articulated in that also. We want to end the demonization of Islam, and we want to end the hijacking of Islam.
What's the name of the book?
Inshallah.
We're inshallah, it's called Sharia Examiner.
Sharia Examiner?
Yeah, it's not out yet.
No, I understand.
Yeah, inshallah, great done. Unless we change the title, we agreed upon Sharia Examiner right now. So that's it from me, inshallah. Anything else? So back to you.
Okay, so we need to break for another prayer. Obviously, this is the end of the program. I know that Cheetah had questions.
Sure.
So I don't know if we can make another prayer and then answer any
Sure.
questions you may have. All right, so I guess we can pray in here. I don't know if you all want to pray or we just pray and go and make your prayer. Oh, we'll bring for prayer. Thank everybody for joining and taking part in this. It is definitely a lot of difficult topics to discuss, but these are topics that we absolutely need to bring to the table and discuss those difficult topics. So thank you for doing that. All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.